Hey everybody, this is Ace Pinkter again. I've been on break for a while. I like making these tutorials, but recently I've been caught up in the learning experience for Fruity Loops. I'll probably have more to say about that later. I don't want to get too much into it, but good program. I'm gonna stick with reason for this particular tutorial, and I want to talk about pads, how to use them, what they are, and how to make them more interesting. Now, pad is just a term which refers to a tone or a series of tones which are usually rich in dynamics, usually well structured, and can very easily be looped or repeated endlessly. Now, reason comes with a lot of pads. Some are generated with the synthesizers, and some are sampled. You can load those up with the NNXT or the 19. I prefer to go with the synthesized pads, mainly just because you have a lot more options to play with here. You know, you can't adjust the phase of a sample, or I guess there are ways to make changes, but just the sheer volume of knobs and the velocity controls that you have with the synthesizers, I think, give you the kind of range that pads really require. I'm going to talk about how to splice these up. Now, I've already made some changes to this pad, but some of the other things you might want to do would involve adding a rhythm, and one way we can do that is by adding a filter in line. Now, if you want to get a good sound out of this, you can take the envelope gate and connect that up to one of your drum patterns or anything that you've got that has a gate output. I'm using a Dr. Rex right now just for a rhythm. And another thing you can do is you can actually create a sequencer track for the filter 1. It expects that you're going to be using just the control knobs, but if you just start recording, that's not very prominent. Let's see if I can make it more visible. Oops. I guess it can't, but you get the idea. It will accept gate events from the sequencer, and that's a good thing. It means if you want to do more of a free-form approach to filtering, you can do that. Just keep banging the keys until you get the rhythm you want, pretty much. Alright, so I want to talk about a second way to make your pads more interesting. This is a trick I developed after watching TJ from LP's tutorial on the Reason arpeggiator, and this is what we're doing here. I've got a matrix which is playing this little melody, but it's not actually playing an instrument. What it's doing is it's connected up to frequency 1 of a 2-band EQ, which I have in line right after the subtractor. So what we're doing here, and you can hear it, the effect is pretty subtle. We can make it more prominent with the bandwidth, but the spiky sound of a thin bandwidth is pretty good. What we're doing here is we're actually highlighting harmonics based on the note that we're playing. And this is kind of cool because you can move the frequency up, and you can hear your little tune will still apply. Now, I like it down there. What's also neat about this is, let's see, I've got two different sets of chords here, and they're both identical, but one is in a different key. And you notice that it still applies just fine. It highlights different harmonics from the different notes which are now being created by our lower transposition. So, alright, that's a neat way to do that. I want to thank you for sticking around for those two tricks. You might have already stumbled across those, but I'm going to give you a little extra just for sticking around. When I start a new track, a new document, whatever you want to call it, I typically have a mixer set up in this fashion. Now, you don't have to do this. I'm just going to illustrate what this last trick is and how it might be useful for you. Usually I've almost always used reverb and delay and some distortion, so I just automatically have those three patched in. I just save the document as new.ens or RNS, and that will take care of it. It'll always be there. Now, this what I'm doing right here is I'm going to add a fourth send, and we're going to connect this up to the modulator input, remember that, on a vocoder. So what good is that? Well, it's not good for making music, I guess, unless you want to test out different patterns and how they sound as vocoded, or as your modulation channel. But what it is very good for is a kind of a quick spectrum analyzer. If I want to listen to this track, I can just pop it across, and there it is. Now I know what it sounds like, or not what it sounds like, but rather how the frequencies are going to appear. Now this is kind of neat too, because I can actually see the effect that my harmonic little tune is producing. See, it's kind of flat up in this mid-range region, and then you see it gets these spikes right where the frequency bands are. Now this is a cool little trick. You can do that. It's nice to have it on channel 4, because then when I've got some other tracks playing, I can do the same very easily and just kind of check out how my I guess how each channel compares to the next. And you know, this is a really good trick for when you're doing your final mastering and you want to balance out some of your lows and mids and highs against each other. This is so far the only way I've found to get a good graphical representation of it in Reason. And having it on the mixer as channel 4 is convenient because you can isolate each channel. Tell me what you think, YouTube. Ace Pincter out.